What was the motivation to get into scouting?
I guess I've been analytical in that area, like even when I was like a kid. That's Forte's first touchdown, and he autographed it. That's the Pro Bowl players one year. All those are our picks. So it's Briggs, Nate Vasher, Tommy Harris. Two things, the bigger ones on top, those were gifts from Parcells when we went to the Super Bowls that he gave all the scouts. It's the 85 Bears. The Bears gave us that. That Ted Phillips gave us. It's opening night at the new Soldier Field. That's Devin's touchdown in the Super Bowl. Devin autographed that. But this is our first draft class.
Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to a new edition of Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and I just want to let you know before we start the show that I am super psyched because, in essence, for me, this is the start of the football season. We've got players arriving at Halas Hall this week, and our coverage is going to be second to none in terms of new programming every day of the week and including Sundays. So it's going to be a tremendous season here for us at the Barroom Network and covering Chicago Bears football. And probably the show I am most excited about because I learned so much every time I am with this man. It is the Gabriel Talks Football Show, starring, of course, Greg Gabriel. Greg, how are you, my man?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Were you upstairs in the kitchen today?
I am in the kitchen because I'm making some changes downstairs in the studio.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're making some food. Maybe you're making dinner early or something.
Yeah, well, my wife is on vacation with her daughter. They're in Boston for the week, so I'm doing all the cooking myself. So before we went live, I had to clear out all the dirty pots and pans. When was the last time you did some cooking for yourself, Greg?
Oh, I do the cooking here every day, just about.
Oh, nice.
I'm the cook in the house.
I love
my
that.
wife's the baker, but I'm the cook.
Very cool. When was the last time you cooked anything for your daughters? Because I know we have something special to share about your daughters. When was the last time you cooked something for them?
The last time they were here. So last summer.
Oh, very cool.
But yeah, I haven't physically seen them in a year.
Mm-hmm. My kids won't stand for my cooking, so we eat out a lot around here. I understand your daughters went to a Garth Brooks concert, and you wanted to share some pictures.
Well, it's funny because, Saturday morning, I get a text from my daughter, Kelsey. I have two daughters, Kelsey and Ryan, that are – Ryan's the one on the left in that picture, and Kelsey's the one on the right. They're 13 months apart. And that picture was in March of 94, and that's them growing up now, Saturday night. But I took them to their first Garth Brooks concert in 1994 at the old Odd Memorial Auditorium in Buffalo. And Kelsey just became a huge fan. Ryan's a fan. Kelsey is like a stalker fan. And so she has seen him. He opened up his world tour here, and I think it was 2014.
Yes.
Yeah, at Allstate Arena. She came here for that, and then the Bills happened to be playing that weekend here, so she did a doubleheader. Saw the Bills and the Bears, and Garth Brooks, and I think she's seen him probably a total of 10 times. But anyway, she got tickets, and she had decent tickets. And she goes to. They get to the stadium. They had a group of 6 girls who went, and they're at the bar. This is probably a good 40 minutes before the concert starts, and they're at one of the bars in the stadium, and this man walks up to him, and he has a Garth Brooks crew shirt on, and he said, "How many are in your party?" And Kelsey goes, 6. Why? He goes, "Okay, don't everybody get excited. Stay calm. Follow me." And he gives them these wristbands. Kelsey goes, "Where are you going?" He goes, "Never mind, it's a surprise." Takes him down, puts him in the first row. Well, they didn't know. They don't sell tickets in the first row. They just pick people out to put in the first row. And if you see, 99.9% women. So
I love it.
I get a text from both of them like, "Oh my God, we're in the front row. How am I going to live?" And so they so all those videos you see, those are taken right from their front row there. They're right up against the stage, and they just had a ball. So.
And they know every lyric to every song because they're singing along these videos. It's great.
And Kelsey sends me a text early Sunday morning. She goes, "I don't have anything to live for anymore. I guess I can die now."
This is great. Listen to some of this. Well, I think this is the beginning when he welcomes people. That is great stuff. Great stuff. Now, I've actually met Garth a couple of times when I worked at McDonald's Creative. He did a number of appearances for Ronald McDonald House Charities. He's always been giving back to the community. He is a fabulous human being.
Well, that's what everybody says, and like I said, my daughter's his biggest fan, and they just had a ball. But I'll tell you, he went into retirement. So she was bummed because she wasn't going to be able to see him anymore. So then he comes out of retirement and does that residency at the Wynn out in Vegas. Remember that? And that was just him by himself. There was no band. So I think it was 2012 or 13 or something. And whenever that, it was like the second year of the residency. For Christmas, we got her tickets to go out to Vegas to see him. But, she obviously had no idea that she was getting this. So both my daughters came here for Christmas, and they're opening up their presents. And Ryan's got all these nice stuff, sweaters, scarves, and all this. And Kelsey opens up, and it's a little gift certificate for $5 for McDonald's and another one for $10 for Walmart or something. And she's like, you could see the look on her face, like, what the hell did I do wrong? And Ryan's getting all this nice stuff. So then Robin gives her this envelope. It said, you got one more. So she opens it up and looks at it, and it says, Kelsey, Vegas, Garth. And she looks at it and she can't figure it out at first. Then she goes, "Am I going to Vegas to see Garth?" And it was like Niagara Falls all over the place.
Oh man, what a wonderful moment! You and I were talking briefly before the show starts. There's nothing better than for a father when you share something with your child and it just brings tears and joy. That must have been a moment you'll never forget.
Oh no, it was a lot of fun, and I was so happy for her Saturday night. She kept sending me those, texts and videos. In fact, they both were. I mean, they both just had a great time, and originally the husbands were supposed to go, and then they booted them and said, no, it's going to be girls' night. And the funny thing is that if the guys had gone, they never would have had those front row seats.
Amazing. Well, good for them. I'm so happy that you shared that with us. It's good to know your family. You've got a great family and a beautiful home. You've also got a lot more work to do because I understand that you are now a member of the Shrine Bowl advisory team, the 2023 East-West Shrine Bowl advisory team. It's you along with Mark May, the former offensive lineman who had a great NFL career, Jordan Palmer, the quarterback guru, Dane Brugler, who does the outstanding work for The Athletic. His draft book, so to speak, is called The Beast, and it's outstanding. We all know Bucky Brooks, the analyst over at NFL Network. Will Shields is the Hall of Famer. He's also on this advisory team. Scott McClanahan. No, I got that
McCloughan.
wrong.
McCloughan.
I should know that name because I've heard it a million times. And, of course, Amy Trask, the former Raiders CEO, and now you see her everywhere, including on CBS Sports. This must be a thrill for you, right, Greg?
Well, I had done stuff for the East-West last year, so it's really a continuation of that. Eric Galco, who was the player personnel director for the XFL back in 2020 with us, and a good friend of mine who I've known a long time, he runs the East-West now. So that's how I got involved through my friendship with Eric. And then he decided after last year he wanted to put together an advisory team, asked me if I wanted to be on it. Of course I would. How can I get a trip to Vegas out of it? Nice. For the game. But I mean, there's some really good people there. Jordan Palmer is becoming the quarterback guru. We all know Bucky Brooks. I've had text conversations with Amy Trask, but I've never met her in person. I've known Scott McCloughan for 30 years. So I knew Bucky when he was a scout, and I'd known Dane for a while. So it's all people I know. I haven't met Jordan Palmer before, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And the league is taking a big interest in the East-West game. And this year, you know how they had a NFL staff for both the North and South teams at the Senior Bowl?
Right.
Not this year. They're at the East-West game.
Wow! Congratulations,
But what they're going to do is they're going to really flip them every year. So a year from now will be the Senior Bowl will get the staff, and then the rest is going to be NFL coaches, but selected coaches from different staffs around the league.
Fantastic. That is extraordinary. Plus, you've got some other great news. You are now a member of the writing team over at the Windy City Gridiron. I think you've written a couple of articles already. Tell us about that.
Well, I wanted, I haven't written since 2019 because then I started, right after the draft in 2019, I started working in the XFL. So I kind of gave up writing, and I haven't done anything since then. And I enjoyed it. It's something that I wanted to do. And so I contacted Lester, and we were able to put something together.
Yeah, Lester is a great guy. I read the first two pieces. Outstanding work as always. And then they've got that great feature over at their website where you can actually listen to the article. So while you're driving, if you got some time and if you got the proper setup, don't lose the 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. If you got the proper setup, you can listen to that during your travels. Outstanding stuff. You've been a busy man.
got to do something.
There you go. Well, let's talk about the Chicago Bears. Since we've been away, there's been a lot of news.
Wait a minute, let's back up a little bit.
Please.
How was your trip?
Oh, I went to San Diego with my wife, and we had such a great time. You know, we're always so busy. She's just kind of made a transition from her corporate job, and she's now in the consulting business. And she's taken about 6 to 8 weeks off. And so we said during that time, let's spend a lot of time together, because during football season, she won't be seeing me, and during her first few months of this consulting job, I probably won't see much of her. So we had a wonderful time. Hit some great restaurants in that area, and it was just great to get away and not think about the bar room for a couple of weeks. And so I'm fired up and ready to go. This is the first of probably, I'm guessing, 30 consecutive weekly shows that you and I will have. And again, it's always a joy to work with you, because I learned so much about the game of football. And actually, while I was on vacation, I went back and listened to a couple of episodes, because you said something to me during one show is, do you remember this? And I'm quizzing you because we talked about it last week, and I didn't remember, and I felt like such an idiot. I gotta start taking notes during this show, because you're giving up so much valuable information. And I know a lot of people in the chat room and on social media say the same thing. They listen to this show and they learn so much from you. So it's a joy. And thank you for asking about my vacation.
Hey, did you go to there's and I can't think of the name of the place now, but it's right next to the aircraft carrier, you know, the Midway aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
There's that big seafood place.
Yeah.
Did you go in there?
I did not get a chance to go there, no. But we did hit some other great restaurants. But my wife and I have said, you know, we need to make this an annual trip to that area, because we love it so much. And who knows, maybe in 4 or 5 years, when we're ready to get away from Chicago's cold weather, we'll look at that part of the country. Right? We were actually looking at some homes, and you know, a 1-bedroom is going to be $1 million.
Oh, you couldn't pay me enough to live in California. I love the state; it's so pretty, and that San Diego area is gorgeous. But you can't get a house the size of my study here would cost $800,000 for Christ's sake. I mean, Teddy Monaco works for the Rams. Was telling me he was looking at some homes, and he goes, I couldn't buy a tiny little 1-bedroom for more than about 1.5. And that's like 1.5 million. And I said, you know, and then you put in the taxes we think the taxes are high here.
Yeah, California.
Oh yeah. And like gas is twice as expensive. I'll visit. I don't want to stay there.
Yeah, we would only consider going to California if they did something with the taxes and we can get lower housing costs. Because that's just ridiculous.
Well, it isn't going down. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that is true. All right, let's talk some Chicago Bears. I want to start with the bad news. David Moore, the wide receiver, was arrested. Some gun charges. Frankly, I should have looked up what the official charges were. But do you think this is a big deal that Ryan Post has had some misfires on some player behavior issues?
No. That stuff happens. And, you know, it wasn't like this guy was signed to a multi-year contract. He was signed late, 1-year deal. He had some production in the league. I didn't think he was going to even make the team. And I don't know if he's going to be on the team tomorrow. You know, in his case, and I did look it up to refresh myself right before we came on air, you know, he fell asleep at a Taco Bell going through the drive-through. And so they called police. Police came in, they searched the car. He had 3 guns in there. And then he had some THC tainted gummies that are totally legal here in Illinois.
Yes, they are.
But I don't know what the laws are in Texas, but obviously it's illegal in Texas. And it's illegal with the league, but they've been a lot different in treating substances like that, especially marijuana. You know, it's basically a slap on the wrist now with the league. Now, cocaine or something else is a different story, but with marijuana, it's like, okay, will every state legalize it so we can take it off our endangered species list or whatever? And so because the endangered species becomes the player, and most of them are doing it anyway. So, but the gun thing, that's bothersome. Okay, one gun, I can understand, but he had 3. And if he got arrested with 3 guns, that means they probably weren't registered or whatever. I don't know all the details on that. So now the other case, who was the other player? He got caught here with a gun in his car. But in that case, it was registered, but he hadn't registered in Illinois yet. Okay. So, that was his bad for not registering the pistol in the state of Illinois, and he probably thought because it was registered, whatever state he was in, he was good here, but not. It has to be re-registered here.
Yeah. Jordan says the player's name was Matt Adams.
Right. That's right. The guy who played for the Colts.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
in Indiana, he had the gun registered.
Yeah. And so, I think with gun laws becoming, lax for lack of a better word in so many states, I think that the shock of a player being found possessing a weapon, I think that shock has gone away, at least for me personally. It is what it is. There's a lot of states now that have conceal laws, and a lot of these players get harassed by people just because of their celebrity status, and you can't blame them for wanting to walk around with a weapon to protect themselves. Or some people might want to blame them, but I'm not personally.
I don't see that. I'm not a gun guy. I don't own a gun. It's probably been 15 years since or more since I fired a gun, and that was at the FBI range when we all went over from Halas Hall.
Yes.
And that's where Olin got in trouble.
That's why I'm talking.
I know. Not the same day, but we could go over a lot there, and we had a good relationship with the SWAT team who that's where they trained. So but I'm not a gun guy. 2 of my close friends are, they have pistols and stuff, and they go to ranges and shoot their rifles and stuff, but they don't have, nobody I know has an automatic weapon. And I'm not in favor of those at all. I mean, that's what the hell you need. You can't use it for hunting. So what the hell you need one for?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I do have to tell you that you're being a little less than honest, because we all know that you've got a couple of guns. Look at those things. So you do possess some guns. Now,
okay, not pistols.
Okay, gotcha. That's a good clarification. One of the things I wanted to talk with you about was Eddie Goldman. Eddie Goldman, a really super interior defensive lineman for the Chicago Bears for a number of years. He held out on the pandemic season. He decided to opt out. And then he came back last year, but he was late to training camp, and it never looked like he was the same type of player. So he was not re-signed, and he was then signed by a different club. The Atlanta Falcons, where his ex-general manager, the man who selected him in the draft, brought him to Atlanta, and now he has retired. Your thoughts on Eddie Goldman?
Great talent, but I don't think he ever totally lived up to the talent. And this goes back to when he was at Florida State. There was questions about his love of football. And I'm going to get into that later because there's some other players we're going to talk about. But in Eddie's case, he got the big money in 2019. Then COVID comes around in 2020, and they got the opportunity to opt out, and he opts out. You know what? It was all over then. Because here's the strange thing. We didn't find out about it till last year. He was scared about getting COVID and everything. He never got vaccinated. That came out last year. And it's like, so the whole thing to me was like, you know what? He retired after the 2019 season when he got his money. He just didn't tell anybody. And it's not that I'm being critical. It's that, you see that there's players that have strong football character, and then there's guys that are playing for the money. And when you play for the money, it catches up to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember early in his career with the Chicago Bears, it was a preseason game where he suffered a head injury. I think it was his rookie season, and he missed 2 or 3 games, I think, during the season because of his head injury. And I always wondered if that was going to have a lasting effect on him. There are some players who suffered these kinds of injuries, and it becomes kind of a mental thing to get over it. And of course, in that position that they're playing, the helmets are knocking quite frequently. And that may have had something to do with his diminished love for the game, if that is in fact what happened.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I don't think any of us can. Only he can. But it tells you a lot when he signs a contract 1 week and like 10 days later retires.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't think he got a signing bonus, and if he did get a signing bonus, he would have had to give it back. But he got his money here. He's probably, if he took good care of that money, got enough money to live on the rest of his life, and have a nice household, etc. So, hey, all the best to him. I just, as a football player and what I look for in football players as far as strong football character, I don't think Eddie has it. And that's fine. I mean, we drafted a guy, Michael Haynes, great guy, great talent. He didn't love football. And if you don't love football, you're not going to make it in this league. You'll get so far, and then it's going to catch up.
Yep. The demands of the game are so incredible for these athletes. If you don't love doing it, then yeah, you're absolutely right. And fans can spot it pretty quickly too.
No, his play last year was terrible. It's like he wasn't even on the field.
Yeah, he had, I think, one good game, and I forgot what game that was. But outside of that, his performance really lacked. But good luck to Eddie Goldman and whatever he's going to do with the rest of his life. And what we want to talk about now is N'Keal Harry. He was one of the 2 acquisitions that I want to talk about today for the Chicago Bears. One was today, and N'Keal Harry was about a week ago, the former first-round draft pick for the New England Patriots. What do you think about Harry?
Well, I liked Harry coming out. Gave him a first-round grade, and that was in the 2019 draft guide. I was going to pull up the report, and I forgot to do that and read it, but I don't know if I got the 19 guide here. Let me look here.
Sure, take a look.
No,
and see some
that's
highlights.
not it.
Okay.
I mean, but anyway, big, talented guy. He's not that fast. I think he ran 4.52, 4.53 at the combine. I don't even think he's that, he doesn't play that fast. He's a big possession receiver. There's people that are like jumping for joy over the signing or trade, really. And I was like, waste of a 7th round pick, because if you're going to give him away for a 7th round pick in 2024, that tells you he was going to get waived.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if it would be before camp or during camp, but he wasn't going to be on their roster. And, this is a first round pick that had a lot of money tied up in, and it just didn't pan out. Now, granted, New England can be a very tough place to play. It's a difficult offense, and Bill Belichick is very demanding. So, and so is Josh McAndrews. So Josh McDaniels, excuse me. I just don't think he fit in there, and he never played up to that potential. Now, he does have the ability to be that big X receiver, but I said on Twitter, I go, waste of a 7th round pick. And here's why. I love, somebody said, oh, it's only a 7th round pick. Who cares? Let me tell you something. You go ask any general manager a week before the draft how many 7ths you want, and he'll tell you to a person as many as I can get, because they are worth their weight in gold as far as you get to that 7th round, and there's guys on the board that you like, and you say you only could take one, and then you got to compete for the rest of these guys in free agency. Well, that takes away the competition part. Draft them. And free agency costs a lot of money now. But to get the guys you really want, what are you doing? Fiddling with the sound there?
Yeah, I unplugged my carbon monoxide detector so I could set up my light. And
don't die on me here because you got too much carbon monoxide. Because I don't know if I could do this thing all by myself.
Oh, yes, you can. But anyway, you were saying now something about Harry that a lot of people have been talking about is he perhaps better suited for the tight end position? Is that something worth entertaining?
I'll tell you, one thing he does good is block. And, he's never played that in tight. He could maybe, and I say maybe because he hasn't done it. I think New England has used him in that situation like a slot guy, so more like the flex move tight end. He's 230 pounds, 235 pounds. Could you use him in that? Yeah, with his blocking, yes, and he'd probably be a weapon. We'll find out Wednesday or whenever the media they get on the field and the media can see where he's lining up. If he's lining up as an X or he's lining up at tight end, or maybe they're going to do both with him if they can figure it out. But I think part of the problem he had is the New England offense is so complex. He just didn't pick it up as quickly as they want. Bill's not going to play if he doesn't trust you.
Right.
So that's what I got down to. So right now I'm in, Missouri. I'm in the show me mood, with him, and he's got to show me he can play because up till now he's been a disappointment. This guy was a legitimate first round pick, but there were some questions. What we know when you watch tape and you don't make a school call, all you're looking at is the talent. You don't know anything about the character.
Right.
And there was questions about his football character. So that's like an Eddie Goldman thing. Now, is it, does he really love the game? Does he put in everything that is needed? Now, let's compare that to, say, Darnell Mooney. And I'm sure you saw Dan Pompei's article about Darnell Mooney. Dude's over at Halas Hall at midnight, working out, watching tape. And the game is important to him. He loves to play this game, and he wants to be the best. Here's a guy, he's 5'10", 180 pounds, soaking wet 180 pounds.
That's right.
And he'll do anything to get on the field. And here you got another guy who's, they listed him at 6'5". He's really 6'3". 6'3", 230 pounds, 232 pounds, and big, long arms, huge hands. And it's like he's going through the motions. And
yeah,
I'm going to give me 10 Darnell Mooneys.
Yeah. I saw some tape of Harry embarrassingly trying to catch a ball where he got the alligator arms thing. And so that's concerning. Although I do agree with a couple of the comments here in the chat. One of them is that Harry is better than any 7th round wide receiver. I have to speculate that is probably the case, that your odds of finding a productive wide receiver and in the 7th round are probably not much better than N'Keal Harry.
I can say that. Yeah, I can agree with that, but you're not necessarily going to take a wide receiver with that 7th round pick. I mean, there's
true.
When the last year of the draft was 8 rounds, I was with the Giants. We drafted a guy named Jesse Armstead, a linebacker out of Miami, in the 8th round. He became a Pro Bowler, a multi-time Pro Bowler. So there's good players out there. Like
Absolutely.
I said, I want as many 7th round picks as I can get.
And the Bears had 3 of them this past season. So my thought is, it's not that it's not that difficult to acquire 7th round picks. I mean, they can trade a 6 and pick up 2 7th rounders kind of thing, or 3 7th-rounders if you
Well, it
toss in
depends.
something
I
else.
mean, it depends where you got to have a partner. You know, I mean,
Yes.
okay. So to say it's easier said than done. And a lot of times, you know, they're done for a reason, and you got to wait till draft day to see if certain things happen, and then teams might be willing to part with that. You know, there might be a guy that he's not as interested, or his roster's pretty much set, so he doesn't care. But I've always been of the idea that I want as many as I can, because it's going to help me with the after the draft. I'm going to get all the guys I want. And I don't have to compete for them money wise. Because you know, now you look at these free agent contracts, the undrafted free agent contracts. Used to be you gave 5,000, 2,000. You know, somebody might get 12. Okay, now then they changed it, and they had a pool, and the pool goes up every year. But that pool's your signing bonus money. It's only X amount of dollars. It's a little over $100,000. And so if you sign 20 guys, you know, you could divide that up. Let's say it's $5,000 a piece, but somebody's going to want some big money. Well, what the agents have done to circumvent that bonus pool cap is get partially guaranteed contracts. And if you ever look at the waiver wire, guys are waived, and it has in parentheses underneath their name, partially guaranteed contract. And so if you pick that up, if you pick the guy up off the waivers, you got to guarantee him. It might be $150,000, it might be $200,000, it might be $75,000, but the guy's getting money. Yeah. And more often than not, the guys with that guaranteed money, even though it's a partial guarantee, are the guys that are on your practice squad because it offsets if they get cut.
Yeah. And another thought that I kind of agree with, I hear what you're saying. Larson says, I think it made sense to trade our seventh to ensure we got him. We need the depth. And I hear what you're saying about, you know, he was probably going to go on waivers. Why not wait till then? But isn't it important to try to get a guy like this into camp as quickly as possible, even if it does cost you a 7th-rounder?
Yeah, but what if he doesn't make your team? Now you're out the player, and you're out. Yeah, there's a gamble there.
Sure.
But yeah, I get that, because now he's got the whole camp to learn the offense versus maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, or maybe it takes him into mid-season before he's really ready to go, and you're using up a roster spot because you claimed about waivers or whatever. So yeah, I get all that. It's worth. I see that it's worth the investment. I'm not so sure from what he has shown to date. His best year was his rookie year. It's been downhill since.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, part of that is he wasn't, you know, the New England Patriots weren't loving him, so they weren't playing him. And now it was cheap for them to get rid of him. But does the guy have talent? Yes. And does he? Personally, I think Equinemius St. Brown is a more talented and better player.
Yeah, I don't think there's an argument there.
And more athletic, and they're both big. Equinemius is 6'5", probably 220 pounds. This guy's 6'3". In fact, he measured at the combine 6'2" and 7/8", and he's a little over 230. Now, if you can find a role for him as a move tight end and combination wide receiver, and he can block, so he's got some toughness to him. Because if you aren't tough, you aren't going to be worth a damn as a blocker. And he is a pretty good blocker. That might be the best part of his game right now.
Well, one of the things that I thought about it immediately when I heard the name that Harry was coming to the Bears is I thought maybe the Bears are looking for an Allen Lazard type player. Now, Harry doesn't have the speed of Lazard. Not that Lazard is a burner by any means, but maybe they're looking for somebody in that offense, a really good blocking wide receiver who can make tough catches over the middle.
Well, I'm not so sure he can make I'm positive, in fact, that he doesn't have the receiving radius that EQ has or Lazard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you go back and you look at a lot of his catches, go back to college and his pro tape, a lot of the catches are right in here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a couple up here, but he doesn't have that big, huge, extended receiving radius that some of the top guys got. Pringle makes catches all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's got a very large receiving radius. So does Darnell Mooney. He's got a great receiver, you know, for a little guy. But this guy, it's more, he's 6'3" and he's playing 6'1" because he doesn't always extend, you know, and he's got long arms, but he's not using them to his advantage all the time.
Yeah.
And I know I'm being overly critical because, you know, I'm not totally sold on it. And you know me, I've been very positive with most of the moves that Ryan has made. And I get it. Hey, he might have liked him coming out of college. And, you know, the old phrase I used to say when we were working there is like, I want to be the one to cut him. Okay. They didn't get anything out of him. Maybe I can.
Yeah. Something that we've heard a lot of in the past. Take a look at this play here. They actually, Belichick had Harry on the punt return team, and he lets the ball drop right in front of him, and that created a turnover. Why Belichick would have Harry on the punt return
Well,
team?
he was a decent returner in college.
Oh, interesting.
But I did not think, you know, and I did not think looking at his return tape, and this is going back, you know, when he was coming out, when I wrote him up. I thought at best he was a backup returner at the NFL level. But yeah, I mean, there was no reason for that. And he actually misjudged the ball in the air.
It's like he was afraid of the ball, and it did hit him, by the way. So it was a turnover. Well, hopefully whatever problems he's had in the past can be rectified, and he becomes a sleeper for this Chicago Bears team. Now, the other big acquisition today, and people are immediately inserting him into the starting row at the right guard position.
Calm down.
That's what I thought, too. It's like, whoa, hold on here. The guy is good.
You know, when it came out that he got is it Schofield? Is that how you say his name?
Michael Schofield III.
Yes. Okay. You know, they're treated like it just got a Pro Bowler.
Yes.
Well, you know how you tell how good a player is? Look at his contracts.
That's right.
And 3 years ago, he was making decent money. He was making or 4 years ago, like $3 million or something. The last 2 years, and now the Chargers got rid of him once, a couple years ago, and then he goes to Carolina. He's at Carolina for the 20 season. And he makes like $1,001,000 or $1,050,000, something like that. And then last year he's back with the Chargers. Did not start right off the bat because I went and looked at tape last night, and became the starter. And the guy's a decent player. I'm not gonna, you know, he's better than what they have, but in that he's got experience. I think his strong suit is pass protection. He's a pretty good pass blocker. Not so sure about the run blocking, only because I just haven't seen as much as I want to see yet. You know, he's a big guy. He's strong. He's listed at 301. He looks a lot bigger than that. He's about 6'5" and a half, 6'6". But I think if you look and listen to everything these guys have said, to me, this is a depth piece just in case these young guys don't work out. You know, now is he going to be inserted right away as the starter at right guard? Maybe. But I think they want to know if the young guys can play. You got a second round money invested in Tevin Jenkins. You know, you want to see if he can play. You drafted the kid from San Diego State in the 6th round. You want to see if he can play. You know, so do I think he makes the squad? Absolutely, he makes the squad. Is he going to be a starter? I think we'll know that at the end of the preseason, because I think if it's even, they go with the younger guys. Yeah. And right now, I mean, if you put Jenkins in at guard, I'm going to tell you right now, he's a better run blocker. I mean, that's what he does really good. And if he has a fault in pass protection, that fault could maybe go away playing him inside at guard, because now, you don't have to take on wide speed.
He does have some versatility. He played with the Chargers, that tackle and guard position. He went to the Super Bowl in his second year, I believe. He was.
Well, he's been with like 3 different clubs, or maybe 4.
Exactly. And he was part of the Chargers team that allowed only 18 sacks in the season, an NFL best. But at the same time, it seems like when he left the Chargers is when his career sort of grounded to a halt. He and perhaps he's better at this outside zone technique that the Bears are going to be running, because that's what they played with the Chargers and did not play with Carolina and Denver, the 2 other teams that he played with.
Right. Well,
I'm confusing those.
No, I know what you're saying, and again, but you look again at the contracts, and that's his value in the league, because you're always studying the tape of players. You've always got a ready list of guys out on the street in case of injuries or whatever, or a situation like this. You want to bring in a couple guys, before the start of camp. And, this guy's a local guy. He's had, good success in the league. Not great success, but he started a number of games. I mean, he started over 80 games in the league. To do that that's 5 years of starting in the league. Okay. Yeah. And that's a lot of games. So he has a lot of experience. And like I said, I think the guy's a pretty damn good pass protector. And the one thing I noticed last night when I was watching tape, he's very, very aware. So his head's always moving and looking, and he does a good job, helping out if he's free and somebody else needs him help, or picking up loop stunts and things like that. He does a very good job. So that part, he's strong. I mean, and he's going to help the team in that area. Again, the run game, I'm not so sure. But, the Chargers had a pretty decent run game last year, and he was part of that offense. So we'll see. I like the signing, but I'm not going to jump up and down and do cartwheels like some people are doing, because he's just, he's a small piece to the puzzle. And what would be a better happenstance for the Bears is if one of these young guys wins the job, and he's a quality, versatile backup.
I'm with you there. I'm 100% with you there. You talked about teams having these lists, which is a good segue to what I wanted to devote the next 10, 15 minutes to, which is, what is it that pro personnel departments have been doing leading up to the start of training camp? What are they doing now, and what are they preparing for into the season? I'm fascinated by that whole process. They've got to be looking for talent, right? So how does that work? Give me an inside look.
Nothing's changed. They're doing the same thing all along. You have your, when you get into free agency, obviously there's people you're doing a lot of work on that you have interest in, right? But you've got a constant ongoing process of evaluating other players in the league, players that you think, you look at rosters like he might get cut. So, you've got, say, an ongoing report, and you always got, just like you have a board and the draft for the draft, you've got a board for pro players, and you just, you stack them top to bottom as far as priority. So, okay, this guy's the best right tackle. This guy's the next right tackle, etc. And so that's what they're doing. They keep going over that. You're looking at rosters. Now, one thing, the Bears can potentially help themselves with waiver acquisitions through training camp and then through the first 3 games of the season, they've got the 6th priority, I think, or is it 7th priority, something like that.
Yeah.
And with that, obviously the teams who were above them in the draft have the priority ranking above them, but still they're not going to grab everybody. And there could be somebody or 3 or 4 players, whatever, that really jump out at you. And they'll say it's well worth the claim to bring these guys in because of what we have on them.
So that board of players, pro players that they've ranked, are they ranking every player in the NFL, or are they ranking players who are susceptible to being cut because of roster, contract, etc.?
That's a great question, and it's really both. Well, put it this way: you got a guy that just signed a multi-year extension. You're not going to do much on him.
Right.
You're wasting, okay? Not today. But now, I talked about this once before, and it carries over. There's going to be guys you like coming out of college. Okay, and you wanted to draft, or you had a good grade on, and you just never had that opportunity because of the way the draft fell. And so now it's a year later, 2 years later, or maybe it was a kid just from this past draft that, because you like them coming out, you say, wait a minute, there's a reason why we like them now. And in this case, it's going to be Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham, really, because, they were at 2 separate places. They were at Philadelphia and Kansas City last year. It's not like you had, they don't care really what last year's Bears regime felt about the college players. So it's what these guys felt. And so there's that. And then you're starting to make your book. You've got a preliminary list of who the guy whose contracts are up next spring. And so, you're going to grade those guys. And are those guys going to be, worth going after next spring in free agency? And, with the amount of money that the Bears have, that could be, a very important part of building this team. Now, my gut tells me that they're not going to go crazy spending just because they have all that money. I think he's going to, do more than he did this year, but I think that, he's going to find the right guys, put it that way. He's going to be selective.
Tell me about
that's where, I'm sorry. I think that's where Ryan Pace got a little careless, and he bid against himself and overpaid for some guys.
Yeah.
And I think Ryan Poles is going to be a lot more. I shouldn't say a little bit more, a lot more selective.
Tell me about the relationship between the college scouting department and the pro personnel department. It seems to me that there has to be really good communication about what are the strengths of the upcoming draft, about what are the strengths and weaknesses of potential NFL free agents coming. There's got to be some really good dialogue going on there. Am I right or wrong?
Well, first of all, what the file of all the reports that were written on a guy in college, that gets, you push a button, that gets shifted over to the pro side.
Okay.
Once the draft is over. So you have all the college reports on the pro side. The league has changed a lot. When I first came into the league, and really my whole time with the Giants, we did pro work during the summer. So once the draft was over and through training camp, we did nothing but pro work. And go to preseason games. I'd go to 1 or 2 preseason games every week. I was with the Giants, and part of that is because the availability or quick availability of game tape wasn't like it is now. Now you have it the next day, because everything is digitized. And so you have it very, very quickly. And the need to send guys to games all the time there might be a reason you want it. You want to see a guy in person for a specific reason, but you're going to have all the tape right in front of you. And so, while you're still going to some games, it's not as anywhere near as much. There used to be 15, 20 scouts at every preseason game. Back in the day, and that there are scouts there now, but not as many. Now, when I came to Chicago here, our pro department and our college department were separate things. The college guys didn't do pro, and the pro guys didn't do college. The only guy who did both was me, and I only did pro when I was asked to do it. As it wasn't, and the pro department, there was 3 guys in the pro department, and, they divvied up the teams. One guy had the AFC, one guy had the NFC, and then the other guy was like an over the top. And, he was the director, and then Jerry obviously looked at a lot of pro tape. And then, when you get your free agency, you get the coaches involved too.
I'm sorry, I got distracted here by a question from Mr. Shorty. I'm not sure. Well, let me put it up. He asked if you've previously discussed how compensation picks work. If not, he would love some clarity. I think everybody in the world would love to have clarity over how these compensation picks work, because isn't the formula somewhat of a secret? There isn't any true clarity on who's going to get a comp pick.
No, there's people that come pretty close, but it's basically what you've added minus what you lost. Sometimes it's what you lost minus what you added, because it could work both ways. And put it this way, if you lost more than you added, then you're due compensation picks. But there's a bunch of buts in there.
Exactly.
Contract is huge. Okay, so you look at it and people write, "Oh, that's big enough. We're going to get a 3rd round pick." Maybe, because now honors, meaning all pro, Pro Bowl, stuff like that, play time, injuries, all are taken into consideration. So if you lose a guy, he signs a big contract, and the first game he tears his ACL, he's out the rest of the year. You know what you're getting for that guy in compensation? Nothing.
0.
Because he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So that flushes that out. And so, for people to say that, oh, we're going to get a 3rd, we're going to get a 4th, that's not necessarily true. You got to let the whole thing play out and see what they did. And they could overplay their contract. And that helps the team that lost them.
Yeah.
A little bit. So those factors, they're never talked about when people tweet these things about the contracts, but they have the league office is looking at it and they know exactly how that formula works. Now, his question, do we got any comp picks coming next year? Right now, I don't think so.
Yeah, it doesn't look that way.
No, they didn't really spend a lot. They didn't really lose a lot. And after the cutoff, like you would think the money that who was it? A couple of the guys got, well, they signed them after the date, after the drop dead date. Akeem Hicks got some pretty good money, but Akeem Hicks got the money after the date closed, and that was like the day after the draft.
Right.
So anytime you sign a guy in June or you sign a guy at the end of May, that's when guys like Akeem Hicks get signed.
And Jordan points out in the chat that overthecap.com probably is the best website to get all of that detailed information. They've got right on the home page of their website, they've got a link to the whole explanation. I've actually tried to read it 2 or 3 times, but that gets me. I can't understand it. Why don't they make this and taxes easier to do. I don't understand all the complexity.
Yeah, that's why
involved.
they got jobs. They make it complicated and it creates jobs.
There you go. Good thinking.
Good for the economy.
Exactly. All right. We need to talk about Robert Quinn because all eyes are going to be on when veterans are scheduled to report later this week. All eyes are going to be on whether tomorrow on Tuesday. And so if he doesn't show up, what do you think happens, Greg?
Well, I have no reason to believe he's not going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If he doesn't show up, he's already making a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So why don't you show up? A lot of times you don't, either to force a trade. Well, there's nothing he has said or done, to the best of my knowledge, mm-hmm. where he's trying to force a trade or he's unhappy. Mm-hmm. Hell, he had his best season in his career here last year. Right. And this defense should be even better for him. Mm-hmm. You know, the design of this defense. He won't have to drop in the coverage at all. Yeah. Does he want to get with a contender? Well, yeah, so is another 500 players.
That's right.
You know, so, and he's got to understand that, and I'm sure he does, that, you know, reporting day's tomorrow. If you don't report, you're under contract, start getting fined every day. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not 100% sure of this. Used to be when you're late, you know, you could work out something with the guy and you could rescind those fines. Mm-hmm. I think it's in the CBA now that those fines are unrescindable.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. So it's like, hey, you're supposed to be here. You better be here. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, don't come to minicamp. Is it there's always a big thing. Was it a forgiven or unforgiven absence? In other words, did he have permission to miss minicamp?
He did not.
Okay. So then you get fined for each day you miss, mm-hmm. and that isn't getting rescinded. You're getting fined that money. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, so do I think he's going to be a Bear? Yes. Do I think he's going to be a Bear past the trade deadline? I don't know, because I don't know what the Bears are going to be coming to the trade deadline. I think that'll play into it.
Right. Well, he is 32 years old, turned 32 on May 18th. And in today's day and age of NFL football, you got to believe he's got 2 or 3 years of NFL football left at a fairly high level, given he's coming off 18 and a half sacks season. And that most of those sacks were without Khalil Mack in the lineup. So you can't say that, everybody was paying attention to Mack, and so Quinn had a free road.
Oh, Mack only played, 5 games last year?
5 games, I believe it was, 5 or 6. And so I believe that if Quinn wants to capitalize from a contract standpoint, he should come back to the Bears, get another 15-sack season under his belt, and he still could fetch a lot of money the following season, whether it's...
Well, he's got more than 1 year. I think he's got a couple of years left on his deal. And, mm-hmm. and actually, when you look at the deal, it's it's a fair deal. It's a reasonable deal.
Which is why he may be not coming to camp. Well, maybe he wants more money.
Yeah, but if he does, we haven't heard that.
Correct.
And so... Now, here, this guy just said he's going to have a down year. He always does.
No, his stats have been up and down.
Yeah, that's not always the case. Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand what people are saying, but you know what? You've known me long enough that the glass is half full.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so, and one thing Quinn does do is he takes care of his body, mm-hmm. keeps himself in excellent shape, and. By the way, I was wondering, are you a track and field fan at all?
A little bit.
Well, I was watching, it's the World Championships were out in Oregon all last week. But, his sister, who ran for the Bahamas, I think, last year, and won some medals at the Olympics, she was not competing this year. And I wonder if she was injured, but that's for another day. Yeah, because I was looking to see if she was competing and she wasn't.
Jasmine Camacho Quinn and she won the gold in the women's 100-meter hurdles at the Tokyo Games. She set an Olympic record time in the process. So it's interesting. Yeah, we'll
world record was set in the 100-meter hurdles yesterday by a woman from Jamaica.
Interesting. Yeah, I love to see those prestige track and field events. Those are always fun to watch.
Well, I think I said it on the show last fall. I said he's got to have a good year. He's got to keep up with his sister.
That's right.
You've got in-house competition going on here.
Indeed. That's great. All right. Expectations for Justin Fields going into this season. Let's lay down some realistic expectations. Of course, if you spend any time at all on social media, Justin Fields is going to have 40 touchdown passes. He's going to rush for 800 yards. He's going to have a passer completion record percentage of 80% and so forth. That's all, of course.
Yeah, but I also read that he's going to throw more interceptions than anybody. And you know what? Although I don't read any of that, listen to it, or care. You know, you want to see growth.
Right.
You want to see him the arrow going up. He's doing better than he did a year ago. He's more comfortable. He can make plays within this offense. He's gotten better at reading defenses, gets the ball out of his hand quicker. That's what you want to see. Okay. And it's not the Bears' record isn't going to be based on what Justin Fields does. That's part of it. It's not all of it. There's 22 guys on the field. You know, it's what those guys do too.
Yep.
And so the defense has got to come up. You know, this is a player-friendly defensive scheme. So they've got to do their part. And, you know, let's face it, defense gets a lot of accolades, but the defense didn't play worth a shit last year.
That's right.
You know, they gave up. There's times the Bears could have won games and the defense gave it away.
Yep.
And so, yeah, the defense got to play better. Justin Fields got to play better, but that's, you know, he was a rookie playing in a screwed up offense behind a offensive line that was, you know, killed by injuries. So you didn't have that cohesiveness. And for whatever reason, they didn't use one of the best receivers in football, and Allen Robinson. You know, they kept him out of the game plan. And so, you know, let's see. I'm in a wait and see mode. I want to see what they do in camp. Now, I'm not expecting big numbers in preseason games, in the 3 preseason games, only because I know they're not going to show a damn thing. It's going to be basic first down, second down, third down football. You know, you're going to see that stuff in training camp, but the games themselves, they don't want anything going on tape. And I think that's one of the reasons that Coach Flus didn't want to have a practice against another team. He wants to keep everything in-house this year because, you know, what they're going to do, you can use the Colts tape from last year to say, okay, they're going to do this on defense, but they don't have the same players the Colts have. And so they're going to do some things a little bit differently. Basically, the scheme is the same, but are they going to be in the same coverages or this do the same blitzes in certain down and distance situations? Not necessarily true because your players are different. Right. And the same thing with the offense. You know, you could go back and you could look at Green Bay tape if you want, but hell, Aaron Rodgers isn't playing quarterback. They didn't have Adams playing wide receiver. You know, so and you've got a quarterback that is way more athletic than Aaron Rodgers and can make plays with his feet and do some things. So it's how are they going to run this offense to play to the strengths of Justin Fields?
All right. I have asked people in the chat for their questions. Let's knock some of these out. What's your opinion on the Bears' new orange helmets? And for that matter, just the orange outfit that they'll be wearing for a couple of games.
Well, I know one thing. Players really like them. and they have a vote on this. So personally, I like it. I like it a lot. I've seen some ideas they should have the bear logo on the helmet. Yeah, that's a good idea. Whether ownership wants to go with that, who knows? Because they like the C. But personally, I love the orange jerseys. I know when we first started using them when I was here, the orange helmet is new. I think it's 50-50 on the fans. But, a lot of it, too, is about who's going to go out and buy an orange jersey and who's going to go out and buy an orange helmet, a replica helmet, etc. And a lot of people will, so that's going to make money.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of fans have mixed opinions about this. Just in the chat,
I can see them. I personally like them, but hey, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I mean,
Absolutely. And we were trolled by the Cleveland Browns social media account saying that we copied their helmet color. And so I hate being trolled by the Cleveland Browns, but they may
I don't
have
think they don't have that bright orange.
No, it's definitely
more of
not,
a flatter orange.
Yeah, more manure orange.
Yeah.
Okay, back to our questions. We got this one here from Mule. Actually, that's not a question. That's an opinion. Let's go to Jordan. Thoughts on Jaquan Brisker not being signed? Any blame to be assigned to Cliff Stein and the Bears for not just handing over $110,000?
No, whenever I looked at the status of contracts last week, and there was an abundance of second-round picks that hadn't signed yet, and then Christian Watson signed his. And no, it's all about guarantees. The slot doesn't change. The total dollar figure doesn't change. The only thing that can change is the guarantees. And so there's a hassle on the guarantees. It'll get done. It's a talking point, and people want to worry about it and have something to. So if he misses a couple of days, so what? He was here for the whole. It's not like he wasn't here in the off-season program, and he's a new guy that's got to start from scratch. Personally, I think it'll be done by tomorrow. That's my own. I know how Cliff operates. Cliff is very easy to deal with. I mean, he's a tough negotiator, but he's not going to shove it in your face. This is the final deal if you don't like it. And that's what was going on, like when they had the Roquan Smith holdout a few years ago. Cliff will do everything within his power to get a deal done, but he's not going to, because everything's slotted and the agents, they say, well, the guy picked above got X amount of dollars in his fourth year guaranteed. So I want at least that, or try to get a little more. And, so that's what it's about. And it's minimal. It'll get done. It'll get done in a timely process, and he'll be a good football player here.
Barrelissimo in the chat is saying that Jalen Petrie has a fully guaranteed third year on his contract, and that probably has, according to some Mr. Shorty and others in the chat room, that probably has agents licking their chops, thinking that they can get guaranteed third year contracts on their players.
Well, I read today that it was the concern isn't the third year; it's the fourth year. Because rookie contracts for rookie draft choices are 4 years.
Right.
And so, somebody said they're counting on him to be a starter right from the start. Yeah, but don't forget, the season doesn't start for 7 weeks. Okay. We still got a long way to go here. So, if you miss a couple of days, people get antsy. It used to be, when I started in the league, there were so many you'd have over a dozen between veterans and rookies, because you didn't have a rookie pool or a rookie salary cap, and you didn't have the regular salary cap. And you'd have 8, 9 veterans, 3 or 4 rookies, all holding out, and we were doing double sessions. And the veterans, they wanted to hold out.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to, they didn't want to go through double sessions. So it's like, okay, I'm going to take off that 2 weeks leading up to the first game. I'll take out the first. Okay, I'll get this settled after the first preseason game or second preseason game. It's not like that veteran needs 6 weeks of preseason.
Mm-hmm.
So you almost knew exactly when guys were going to come in. And especially if it's a guy that you can't live without type player, not a marginal player. A marginal player is going to be there.
Speaking of unsigned players, Roquan Smith is in the final year of his contract, and Mr. Shorty is asking, is Roquan not signed because he wants Sam money, and they are playing him at the will position? The difference in linebacker positions, does that factor?
Sam's are the least paid linebacker. He's not a Sam. He's been a Mike his whole career so far.
Right.
Okay, now I don't think it's ever been announced who the Will and who the Mike is going to be. They've never, and it really, that's not going to make the league differentiates between defensive ends and defensive tackles, but I think linebackers are all grouped together. But you're going to look at the contract. The guy up down at Indianapolis got, who was drafted the same year, plays the same position, things like that. There's going to be comparables.
Next question. Jack Sanborn, that linebacker from Wisconsin, do you think he makes the roster? I got to believe that if he plays well on special teams, he's a must to have on this squad. I love the kid's attitude.
Well, he's in my opinion, he's a pure inside linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
I know he can play Mike. I'm not so sure he can play Will, even though they're similar. The Sam in this defense means nothing because the Sam isn't going to play that much. It's a lot of times you're playing a 4-2-5. You're playing in a sub. And so it's your Will and Mike in there, and the Sam is not there. If they're playing with 3 linebackers, it's probably 15% of the time, maybe 20% of the time. And what these guys have said, and I totally agree, is that guy, that Sam, has got to be able to play Mike and Will, because and so he's going to learn really both positions, or at least 2, and so they have to be interchangeable parts. We got to see the versatility of Sanborn. Yes, special teams are going to play into it, and we'll talk about more of this as we get later in the preseason.
Right.
But when you're putting together your 53-man roster, it's not necessarily your 53 best players, because you have in your mind that like I've said this 1,000 times, but let's say you want 6 wide receivers. 5 and 6 have to be able to play special teams, and you hope 4, 5, and 6 can play special teams. Something, whether it's a returner, a gunner, or whatever. He goes down and he can stand over the gunner and anything like that. So the same thing with your backup linebackers. Those guys got to be premium special teams players. So if Sanborn proves to be a premium special teams guy, even if there's another guy better, but he's not as good on teams, then chances are Sanborn makes the club because of his value on special teams.
Well, somebody in the chat said, I can't wait to see him make his first few tackles at camp, because I think there's going to be an echo effect when that guy gets pads on pads. I'm looking forward. I'm going to go out to a handful of practices and take a look, and so I will have firsthand knowledge as to how he is playing along with others, and we'll be reporting here on the Barroom Network. I think I got one more question for you. It is from Danger T. He says, what position you think the Bears should have addressed before training camp? When you look at this team, Greg, do you see like a position area that you say, wow, I wish they could have landed, somebody to help with this position group, which is the weakest position group on this roster right now?
I don't know if I'd call it the weakest position group, but I'd like to see another 3.
Mm-hmm.
Only because, we lost the one guy in free agency and that, because of the injury, now he's with the Steelers. I'm just not totally sold it's the right people. Now, maybe the coaches may be a lot more sold than I am, but they're around the guys. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only thing. And are there a few out there on the street? Yeah, there's probably a couple, but there's time. And the coaching staff might want to say, I want to see what, when we get live, I want to see what some of these guys do.
Yeah.
And then they're going to make some decisions. But that's really the only thing, I think. I think, the national media thinks the roster sucks. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people make it out to be.
It has been interesting the last few weeks. It appears like the national media is just having fun piling on the Chicago Bears. But we'll see if the Bears can quiet them once the season starts.
Well, there's a lot of people that say they got the receipts. I don't need the receipts. You just remember.
Exactly. Bellissimo has one that I'd like. Why is J.C. Tretter, the former Green Bay Packer, former Cleveland Brown center, can play some offensive guard, why is he still a free agent?
I think he made a boatload of money last year.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think he played up to that money level. Mm-hmm. I've said a lot. If you're making $5 million, you have to give the club back $5 million in production. Okay, otherwise you're not worth it to the club. And now Mule Skinner says union rep. He's not a union rep. He's the president of the union. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Mm-hmm. He's had a good career, but 32 teams have had an opportunity to sign him, and they haven't signed him yet. It's the same thing with Schofield. 32 teams had the opportunity to sign him for the last 4 months. He got signed this morning. So, I don't want to hear, oh, we just signed a guy that's going to be the difference maker. I don't know if he's a difference maker. He's a good football player.
Yes, he is. Yeah. But difference
let's
maker.
Let's not overdo it here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I got a question here from a Nomad that I'd like to sneak in. Do you think it's necessary to trade for a quality 3 tech if possible? I mean, these questions are always difficult to answer because they're so broad. Which player are we talking about? What do they want in return and so forth? But if you were in that personnel department, would you be saying, hey, guys, keep an eye out for any quality 3 techs that we could potentially pick up for a 6th-round draft pick?
I don't think he's in the business of wanting to get rid of draft picks.
Yes, I agree.
Number one, 3 techs are hard to find. The right guy. In fact, I've been doing some work for one of the player agencies, evaluating players for him, on just giving them an idea of what the guy is, where he's going to go, based on last season. And I've come across a bunch that aren't 3 techniques at college, but I think will be. They're, put it this way: you got to have a different kind of player to be a 3 tech in this defense,
right?
And so, and he's got to be athletic. He's got to be explosive. And so, I've come across a few and where I'm saying, wow, if you put 15 pounds on this guy, he might be a hell of. There's a defensive end at Northwestern that I did like 2 weeks ago. I said, there's a 3 technique. Even though he's an end there, he's about 265, 270. We'll get him up to 285. And in this scheme, he might be a pretty good 3 technique. But, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Yeah. And sometimes, you got to go out and find guys for that position. And whether they, guys that are 5 techniques and stuff, they might not necessarily be the right kind of athlete that you want to play the 3 in this defense.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You of course have developed that eye of looking at a player and projecting what position they could potentially play at. And the 3 tech is the guy with the Colts now, what's his name? Buckner. Yeah, he wasn't originally projected as a 3 tech, right?
Well, he was drafted, 2nd or 3rd overall or something by San Francisco. He was a very, very high 1st-round pick.
Right.
He played inside defensive tackle and some defensive end for San Francisco. He's a big athletic guy. He's 6'6".
He's amazing.
Yeah, and a really good athlete. I talked to Ballard right after he made that trade, and I said, wow, you got a good one. He goes, Greg, I was sweating that one out for the last 10 days. So that's how, it wasn't a thing that came together in one day.
Right.
There had been talks going on that thing back and forth for a while. And he goes, there was times when I didn't think it was going to get done. So going through guys so far, there's a couple guys you're going to have to be drafting really high in the 1st round to maybe get a shot at them. And I'm not going to mention any names yet, but there's other guys that you got to project.
Well, one of the guys that you've projected as potentially a really good 3 tech is Mario Edwards, somebody that you've mentioned.
Well, he's played, 5 technique in the old scheme. He's very athletic. He's very explosive. Does he make some dumb plays? Yeah. But athletically, he fits the bill, and he's strong. And he can get off the ball, and he's a good interior pass rusher. So, yeah, he fits the bill. And Flus wants to have basically 8 defensive linemen rotating during the course of a game. I got to look back and see if they had 7 or 8 guys active at Indianapolis last year, because I've got, there's a website I can go to get that information. And it has it has the flip cards for every game going back to like 1985 or something.
Well, let me recommend that people go to Windy City Gridiron, where Greg is now one of their featured writers. His latest piece is called "The Scouting Season May End at the Draft, but the New Season Begins Right Away." So interesting read. And are you doing weekly columns for them?
I'm going to do 2 a week.
Awesome. That is great news for football fans and Greg Gabriel fans. That's going to do it for our show. I want to just let people know that later today, it's going to be the Double A team. They've got a great show planned. And then tomorrow, Dan and Aldo bare their souls with Johnny Santucci, and Chris Watts from the Barfly Tailgate Show is going to join us. And then, Greg, you and I will be back here next Monday. We're going to settle into Mondays until we're told otherwise by the powers that be. So, great show. It's good to be back with you, and we'll let everybody go with our closing credits. Take care, everybody.
See you later.